in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbransen and Matt Gutierrez.
Good morning, everybody. NFL Week 16. Yes, and we are just a day before Christmas Eve. It is December 23rd, and the Raiders are hosting the Broncos in what could be the final game in Oakland. And Matt Gutierrez, my co-host, how you doing this morning?
I'm sad, man.
You're sad?
The Dodgers lost Puig. I'm still irritated by this stupid trade. It'll be okay if they get Harper, but sorry. I know this isn't a baseball show, but no, man, I really like Puig.
Yeah, but that is I think that is a precursor to them getting Bryce Harper.
Damn well better be now, otherwise you're in trouble.
Yes, there might be a little bit of a revolt there if it's not. But I will tell you that one important thing I have to mention, Matt, before we get on, is it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Doesn't feel like it out there though.
Everywhere. Okay, I cannot sing, ladies and gentlemen.
Over here.
I cannot sing, so I will spare you more of my singing. But what we're going to talk about today, we have another full show, Matt. So much happening in Raider Nation. And, of course, we're talking, as we did at the top of the show, about the fact that this could be the team's last game in Oakland. I'm going to bet and tell you right now that I think it's a 75% chance that it is. And for the folks up in Oakland, I know that's a sad thing. You don't want to see your team leave earlier than you thought. But you can thank the elected officials of Oakland for filing the lawsuit and doing that. So that's where you can address your anger, I believe, towards. But also, the Raiders are bigger than one city, and we're going to talk about a column that Michael Rosenberg from the Sports Illustrated Monday Morning Quarterback wrote this week, which I thought was really interesting, Matt. And then, of course, we're going to talk to some folks today, including Vinny Bonsignore in our first segment after the break, about what the latest is on kind of what we're hearing now, especially with the AT&T report. First, really, I think, broken by Michael Gelkin of the Review-Journal. Michael, we tried to get on the show. He was very gracious. He said he just couldn't do it, but he was in contact with us, so that was good. But we'll see how that goes. We'll ask Vinny about that. But then we also have a conversation with Jason Minnix from ESPN Radio in San Antonio about San Antonio, because I think people, because they want to keep the Raiders as close as they can, are kind of forgetting about San Antonio. But I think it's a really viable option, and so we're going to talk about that too, Matt. But it's the talk of the town, right?
It reminds me a lot of New Orleans situation when Katrina happened, and they were just kind of nomads for that one season. Obviously, this is a completely different scenario. There's no tragedy involved unless you're an Oakland native and you're losing your team. But they're going to be kind of a nomadic team next season. You don't know where they're going to be. I like you don't think they're going to play in the Coliseum. At this point, I hope they don't play in the Coliseum, just because it's become such a black eye on this organization, and there's so much controversy surrounding it. You've got media out there that are just slamming the team left and right. It's time for them to step away from that. And you had a great article in on silverandblacktoday.com about it's time for them to forget about being Oakland and start embracing the Las Vegas.
Well, yeah, and that's the key, I think, is that you have to at some point start to think about your future, and that is what it is. And I think that it's time. And again, no offense to the folks in Oakland, I think most of the people here in Las Vegas, Matt, have been very, very appreciative and understanding, and have shown a lot of love to the people of the Bay Area who are not the ones that are blasting the team or the 500 people on Twitter who follow Stay in Oakland. That's not what it's about. But at some point, you have to move on. It's sort of like a relationship. It's over. It's time to go. And so, yeah, it would suck for those folks up there to do it a year early, but I think it's probably best for the team to start moving on, even if they have to be in a temporary home and not be here in Las Vegas. But I do think that the toxicity that is up there now is going to make it very hard for them. And we'll talk about AT&T Park in a few minutes, but it's one of those things, Matt, where It's and when I talked to Mark Davis, we're at the stadium event. They fed the stadium folks, the construction workers this week. When I was out there, that's the one thing I said to Mark Davis. I said, "This is like no other situation in the history of sports. It really is."
You hoped when this whole thing started that Oakland would be, I guess, gracious in this situation and just say, "Look, we know we're going to lose the team, but right now this is our team. We want them to play here. We're going to do everything we can to have these last couple of years be a great couple of years for the Raiders and for their fans." And instead, like you said, the toxicity, it's become so ugly up there, and there's so much bad blood going back and forth that it's really not in anybody's best interest at this point for that team to continue to play there, at least not in the Coliseum. I think that's the biggest thing. If they do end up playing in AT&T Park, which is right across the bay there, McCovey Cove, they're still home, really. Nobody has to uproot. Nobody has to go anywhere. There's no plane flight to get to your home game. Nothing like that. It's a pretty easy thing to do. That's why we talked about Cal a lot and playing up there in Berkeley. It's right there. It's a short BART ride north, and you're at the stadium.
Yeah.
But San Antonio, that's 16 road games. Albeit you're going to have a lot of silver and black in there. 16 road games. If they were to play in Vegas, which they won't, but if they were, that's 16 road games. San Diego, 16 road games.
Yeah.
So the bad blood has unfortunately forced them out of the place they probably should be playing, and now they're just kind of in limbo.
Well, it is, and to me, one of the issues here, and we're getting a lot of comments on our Facebook and YouTube feed. By the way, you can listen to us if you're listening to us over the air in Las Vegas. Thank you for doing that on CBS Sports Radio 1140 AM. If not, you can stream us worldwide at radio.com. So if you have the radio.com app on your phone or on your computer, you can do that. I got a note last week, Matt, after the show from somebody listening to us. A gentleman named Gentry was his name, and he was in Afghanistan.
Wow.
Serving our country. So thank you to Gentry if you're listening again. Although I think he might listen. I don't know. It's not delayed over there because it's streaming, but their internet's not always great when you're in Afghanistan, as you can imagine.
That's awesome, though. But thank you for the support.
Of course, yeah. But a lot of people talking still about San Diego. Our friends Vince De La Cruz. Vince, the San Diego thing totally makes sense, but it doesn't make sense because, again, the NFL moved a team out of there, and they're not going to show up the owner of the Chargers, Dean Spanos, by putting a team there that draws actually pretty well in a stadium they said wasn't viable anymore. And
that's the biggest thing is you talk about the hypocrisy of the NFL and it knows no bounds, but that I think is going a little bit overboard. I'd love to see them play in San Diego just because it's close. San Diego's a great city. We like going to San Diego. You're from San Diego.
Yep.
It's a great place to be, but yeah, that I think is, if you could have an even bigger black eye, that would be it right there.
Yeah, no, and the AT&T Park, obviously you have the Emerald. I think it's still called the Emerald Bowl. It's like the Emerald Nut Bowl, or it should be the Nut Bowl, but it's Emerald who does the nuts from the San Joaquin Valley. But anyway, there's games there. We're gonna, when we talk to Vinny about it, we'll do that. If you're watching us on one of our feeds, we have some video of football inside AT&T Park, so you can see that if you're streaming us as well.
We were talking about that yesterday, about them playing on another baseball field.
Another baseball field, exactly.
Different in that the dirt infield is going to be on one side of the stadium instead of right in the middle like it is in the Coliseum. It'll be like Qualcomm or Miami used to be, things like that.
Correct.
But Tony, we were on Sports Adrenaline yesterday, said, you know what, they should just do the field at the new stadium, but play on field turf and just paint that dirt infield, do it brown right in the middle of the field. So now you have, it still looks like the Coliseum, but it's all grass.
Well, you know what's funny is when I coached baseball in Kansas, when I lived in Kansas City, and we were coaching USSSA baseball, we had some turf fields, artificial turf fields, and the infield was artificial turf too, but it was colored like it was dirt. So just like you're talking
got those
about
here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, the Big League Dreams Park has it.
Oh, that's right, out North Las Vegas.
Where you can go out there
not North
and
Las
take
Vegas, but near
BP at
Dodger Stadium.
Stadium or Fenway,
that's right,
Yankee Stadium. Yeah,
that's right.
Great.
So, but that's the thing is like, no matter where they play, it's going to be odd because you're going to have a situation with a team that's moving to a market in Las Vegas, but they're playing somewhere else next year. And that's why definitely we'll ask Vinny about the AT&T stuff, what's happening there. There was rumors earlier in the week, people pinging us about Dodger Stadium. No. Not going to happen. As much as Matt would like that, because
I would hate that.
Teams.
Do you know how particular the grounds crew at Dodger Stadium is? They're always known for having one of the most immaculate fields in baseball. And that's not just being a homer. That's legitimate report stuff there. They would lose their mind if 53 guys jumped on that field every single week and absolutely destroyed it. So no way they would put it there.
No, that's not going to happen. But we'll talk to Vinny about that in this segment. At the bottom of the hour, we'll have Jason Minnix, Matt, on about San Antonio, including comments from the mayor. We do know, and we can report to you today, that the Raiders and the city of San Antonio have had discussions about 2019. That's on the record from the mayor of San Antonio. So that's happening. So you can't say that they're not going to go to San Antonio. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying there's conversation. They have to have conversation, multiple.
Again,
right?
You can say again because there were conversations there originally about a permanent home. Exactly.
Yeah, and Jason's going to talk to us about that too, because there was, and then you mentioned the Saints, Matt. When the Saints, because of Hurricane Katrina, had to relocate to San Antonio for that series of games that they played there, the city supported them. Well, that was a little bit different in that, and people were welcoming.
They became America's team for that season.
Correct. And the city of San Antonio, which is the 7th largest city in the country, by the way.
Don't at me, Cowboy fans.
The 7th largest city in the country, San Antonio, welcomed them with open arms. Red McCombs, the owner, obviously has a lot of contact and a lot of connections in Houston and New Orleans. So there was a lot of things going on there, and we'll talk to Jason about that as well. But either way you look at it, everybody's throwing out, why can't they do Sam Boyd Stadium? We've exhausted that discussion. If they had to, if it was a last resort and nothing else was possible, then I could see it happening. I just don't see it happening again for all the reasons
you have to know about
discussed.
Sam Boyd is the second that everybody moves out of there, Sam Boyd becomes Rebel.
Yes.
That's how great that stadium is. It's done. It will no longer serve a purpose.
Right. That's why the San Francisco report is so interesting, but we're going to talk about that as well. Otherwise, on the show as well, we're going to talk about this subject, which I think there's actually, and I'm not a social justice warrior, okay, but I think there's some interesting issues, cultural issues below this argument of, is there going to be violence in Oakland tomorrow?
Absolutely. There.
Right? And so we're going to talk about that later in the show because I think that's really important. And it's coming from the national media, not from Bay Area media, although a few Bay Area media people have written about it. But I think they've written about it in the correct context and in a fair way, which is fine. We'll talk also about the Michael Rosenberg piece about the Raiders and how nobody really cares that they're leaving Oakland, it seems, and that it's more the Raiders' mystique. The Raiders are bigger than one city, which we just discussed. We're going to talk about his column because I think there's some interesting takes in there. Some people were angry about it. I don't know why anybody would be angry about it. He does make some assumptions that I think are false, but we're going to go through that as well. Then also in the second hour, Andrew Mason from Broncos.com will be here. We're going to preview that game. A game I think, and I haven't made a lot of bold predictions. I think the Raiders are going to squeak one out. If it's the last home game in Oakland, it's against the hated Broncos. Could be their last AFC game, last game ever in Oakland. I think the Raiders will dig deep in emotionally and find a way to win this game.
I think they play their best game of the season tomorrow night.
Yeah, I
really
do too. I do too. So we'll talk about that. Then later in the show, we're also going to talk, and Matt's going to do his audible. We don't know what that is yet because we surprised you with that one, but we're going to talk about that well too. Also, if you want to call in, 702-889-597. We haven't taken calls in a couple weeks. We've been so busy. But
so to roll into the audible, we'll make it a full show thing.
Yeah.
Let's take calls. I want to hear, because we're pretty confident, 75% you said this will be the last game in the Coliseum, right? Mm-hmm. Give me your best Coliseum story.
There you go.
I want to hear Coliseum stories from all the fans out there in Raider Nation. Whether it was the best game you attended, the best atmosphere, the best road team performance. I was at the Brett Favre game after his dad passed away. Yeah. That was absolutely amazing, and it had nothing to do with the Raiders winning, but it was at the Coliseum. Whether it's a tailgate experience, whatever it is, call in and tell us what you think is your best Coliseum experience.
And tell us where you think they're going to end up, too. I think that would be interesting to hear what people, not what you want, but what you think will actually happen. So we'll do that. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Vinny Bonsignori from the Athletic Los Angeles. We'll ask him about AT&T Park in San Francisco and the latest on the Raiders' temporary relocation for 2019. We're going to step aside, pay some bills, and we'll be back right after the break. You're listening to the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. in Las Vegas.
The law callers and guests on the Newsmaker line are brought to you by the Law Office of Michael A. Troiano. This is Silver and Black today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbranson.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Silver and Black today. And a little bit of breaking news since we went on the air, and that is John Gruden fires someone else.
Who was it this time?
Did
he fire Mark Davis?
No, he fired Tom Shaw, the strength and conditioning coach, which is interesting that you kind of announced that. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if it was announced or if it just got out right before your one of your last game. Very interesting. But hey, you know what? We've known all season just to expect the unexpected when it comes to the Raiders in 2018 as they continue to have all sorts of change. And so that's it. But, of course, the big change that we're wondering about is where the Raiders will play 2019. And we go out on the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line now. We welcome in our weekly contributor, and that is Vinny Bonsignore, NFL insider, NFL writer for The Athletic Los Angeles. Happy Sunday, Vinny. Happy early Christmas. How you doing today, buddy?
Likewise. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Excellent.
Doing great. Ready for the madness that is NFL Sunday and, of course, the holidays as well. Now, Vinny, let's start off with, of course, our fellow Las Vegas journalist Michael Gelkin of the Review-Journal reported yesterday that, and the Giants confirmed, that the Raiders and the San Francisco Giants have had early, at least, discussions about possibly hosting the Raiders at AT&T Park next season. What are you hearing from your folks about the viability of that, especially since it's inside the San Francisco 49ers territorial market?
Yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily going to be an issue. I think the 49ers understand what the situation is, and I think the NFL, everyone will do the right thing in that regard. But as we talked about last week, all options are open. There's no shortage of interest in cities and venues that would like to host the Raiders next year. So they're going to do their due diligence. I know that deep down they would prefer that it works out. In the Bay Area, they really feel strongly that the fans that are there for them up there, they want to do right by them. There's no question about it, and make no mistake about that. So, if there's something that is viable in the Bay Area, I think that they would strongly consider that, and so it's not surprising at all. And I think it would be an interesting venue for them. They have done football games there. I covered a USC Boston College game years ago in a bowl game. I think it was the Foster Farmers Bowl or one of those bowls up there. So it can be done. There's no question about it.
Vinny, is there a consensus, I guess, amongst national media, people that you talk to in your circles, that as to where the Raiders are going to play next year? I mean, everybody has their opinions, but have you been getting, I think it's going to be here. I think it's going to be here, and they all kind of match?
No, it's across the spectrum. I think that, the people that I talk to understand that the Raiders, I wouldn't say that they're at the beginning stages of this process, but, it's not like they're at the finish line, that's for sure. So they're going to explore, all the options, including, seeing if things can still work out in Oakland. So there's no real consensus. It's sort of wide open, at this point. So everyone's kind of waiting to see, okay, where is it? And there is a great curiosity as far as how it all plays out.
Yeah, and again, we're talking to Vinny Bonsignore from The Athletic in Los Angeles. Now, Vinny, I've read a lot of folks, and I think on the TV side, it's been a little heavier on this narrative a little bit, which is this is an embarrassment for the NFL. In fact, even on our own network here, CBS Sports Radio this morning on the DA show, he was talking about how it's so embarrassing for the NFL and the Raiders that they don't know where this team's going to play this year. And I think that, hey, we sometimes, as people in the media, we play up stories because they're good stories. It gives us something to talk about. But is there any sense from the NFL that there's any major concern? My thought was, and the people I talked to inside the radio organization have said that, look, we've been planning for this contingency for a long, long time. Because we haven't announced where it's going to go, doesn't mean we don't have a plan.
I would file that under fake outrage. It's like an embarrassment to who? I mean, they're going to figure out a place to play, and it'll all work out. It might not be optimal. It might not be the perfect situation, but it'll all work out. The Chargers are playing at StubHub Center. I'll never forget when I reported during 2015 that was an option, and everyone on Twitter called me the biggest idiot alive, which maybe I am. I'm not discounting that whatsoever. But it was actually the Raiders' idea. That's who they had their eye on StubHub Center. Thought it would be a great place for fans to come watch a football game, and people were saying it's ludicrous. It's this. That'd be the biggest embarrassment. We've all lived and survived with the Chargers playing at StubHub Center. The world did not come to an end. NFL ratings are up. The money's come rolling in. So if people want to call it an embarrassment, they have that right to, but I don't sense anybody in the league or anyone that takes this seriously really referring to all this as an embarrassment. You look at through the history of teams and where they've played while stadiums were getting built, you'd be surprised at some of the places that games actually took place at.
Ironically, because of the lack of interest in the Chargers, that stadium is actually too big for them. So
unfortunate. I'm in Phoenix, but I was watching the game on TV. That place was rocking last night.
It was. It took the entire season to get there, but good for them nonetheless.
If you haven't gone, I urge you, whether you're a Charger fan or a fan of whoever, or just it's like going to see Bruce Springsteen at a small venue, and that was the NFL's idea all along. Like, can you imagine our product in an intimate environment like that? So it really is a cool place to watch a football game.
I was out there for the Raiders-Chargers game this year, and it was a lot of fun. You do feel like you're right on top of the field, and I mean it is a smaller venue, but it's fun. It's still a great atmosphere. Vinny, let's shift gears a little bit here and jump into the news we got last week about the NFL draft coming to Las Vegas. What are you hearing out there? I mean, this is a big deal for the city. This is leading up into the Raiders opening up their brand new home. No shortage of venues out here to host a draft, whether it's inside or outside. What's the buzz you're getting?
Yeah, I think everyone's excited about that, and that was part of the whole deal. Nevada contributing, and this is what other cities and states have this kind of a choice to make when they want to be a partner on these stadiums. This is what you get. You're going to get the Super Bowl. You're going to get drafts. You're going to get, who knows? The Combine could go there for a year if they start, moving that around on a year-to-year basis. And so really excited to get that there. And I've been to the last 3 of them, I guess. And they've made this basically a whole week. It's not just, and the NFL is smart like that. They're like, why do it on one day? I remember when I was a kid, used to wake up on a Wednesday morning or Thursday morning California time, and it would be like 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe even 5 o'clock in the morning for it to start like at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And the NFL said, look, people are really like crazily interested in this. Let's make it an event. So they've spread it across 3 days now, and the day before it actually starts, they get started with events in the city. So it's going to be really awesome for Las Vegas. They're going to get a taste of what is in store for them with being partners now with the NFL.
Vinny, has there been any sense that also? I mean, we all believe that eventually the Super Bowl will be in Las Vegas, but is there any correlation between a city hosting the draft and some sort of soft sounding on whether or not it's a good venue to support an event like the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, it's certainly a great way to be able to sort of test the waters. But make no mistake, the Super Bowl is coming to Las Vegas. Yeah. And whether they're using that as a gauge, I'm sure. You take your notes and you apply what worked and eliminate what maybe didn't work and get an idea of traffic and all that kind of stuff. But the Super Bowl is going to Vegas. That was one of the parts of it. When you build a new stadium, when a community contributes $700 million, it's assured that you're going to be in the Super Bowl or get a Super Bowl, and there'll be more to come. In the years ahead. I kind of I'm in Phoenix right now, and this used to be the only place, basically, on the West Coast to have Final Fours, to have a venue that was big enough to do Final Fours and Super Bowls. Well, now Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and you wonder, how. I mean, Phoenix will always get stuff as well, but they're going to be now. It's where they used to always get it because they were on the West Coast. Now they're going to be competing with Los Angeles and and Las Vegas, not just for the Super Bowl, but for big events like the Final Four.
Yeah, no, it'll get in the rotation, and being on the West Coast will be helpful because obviously when the NFL lost San Diego, that was one that they couldn't do anymore. So, Vinny, man, have a good time down in Phoenix today, and as always, thank you, and have a Merry Christmas, my friend.
You guys too. Absolutely. Thanks for everything you do. I really appreciate being part of this, and happy holidays, man.
All right, brother. Thanks, buddy. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Jason Minnix. Jason is a longtime sports talk show host, play-by-play guy down in San Antonio, Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about the Alamo Dome and the opportunity maybe for the Raiders to play in Texas next season. Can you imagine? You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. in Las Vegas.
So let me get
CBS Sports Radio. This portion of Silver and Black today is powered by the law office of Michael Troiano.
This is Cliff Branch, former of the Oakland Raiders, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowl, and you listen to the Silver and Black Show.
Welcome back to Silver and Black today, and we go out now on the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line. Bring in Jason Minnix. Jason is longtime San Antonio sports talk show host, play-by-play guy down at ESPN Radio there. He hosts The Blitz with Jason and Rob on ESPN. It's on FM and AM in San Antonio. He's going to join us now to talk about the Raiders possibly moving to San Antonio for a year as they look for a temporary home as the nomadic franchise tries it one more time before they come here to Las Vegas for their permanent home. Jason, how you doing today? Thanks for joining us here on Silver and Black today.
I appreciate it. Silver and Black today. I'm glad you clarified that it's Raiders and we're not talking Spurs because we could talk Spurs all day as well with the Silver and Black, which is a reason why it makes sense for the Raiders to be in San Antonio. They already have the color scheme. The fan base is there. It's an interesting time when you think about when the Raiders were going to leave Oakland before they made the final destination of Las Vegas. The amount of flirtation that was with San Antonio, and obviously they chose Las Vegas. Now they're going to be homeless for a year. The question is, is San Antonio viable? Of course it is. Do San Antonians want them? Depends on who you ask, and that's kind of the real question is, we almost had you, but now you want to rent? You didn't want to buy, but now you want to rent for a year? It's interesting when you put it in that scenario.
No, it is, and we always joke around here, say, it's sort of weird. With Oakland, a lot of people use the analogy of, hey, Oakland, we're the Raiders, we just divorced you, we don't want anything to do with you anymore, but we're gonna stay live with you, right? Now it's sort of like, hey, we're looking for a temporary girlfriend for a year. And we're going to love you. We're going to do great with you for a year, but then we're going to say goodbye. So it is a very unusual, and I think, Jason, probably the most unusual relocation situation in the history of sports. There's been some other strange ones. Of course, you had when the Oilers moved up and they had to play in Memphis, and that was a disaster before they went to Nashville. So you've had some little things like that happen, but never did you have it like, hey, we're leaving, we're going to stay here, and now a lawsuit and all this stuff has happened. But San Antonio, you mentioned the Spurs. Not only are they silver and black, but one of the great franchises in the history of the NBA and done so well down there. And it shows just how great a sports town San Antonio is. San Antonio, the 7th largest city by population in the United States, 1.5 million, I think, is the last population down there. And you've had the Alamo Dome for some time. Final Fours clearly have been there and hosted there, and all of the feedback on San Antonio hosting big events has always been fantastic. You courted the NFL, a lot of interest, and then no one has come to the altar, so to speak. For the people of San Antonio, is this another perhaps opportunity to show that the NFL should give San Antonio the shot?
It's an interesting question, and to try to shorten an answer that could be very, very long is you look at the Alamo Dome was built and opened in 1993 under the premise of if we build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. So you've got taxpayers now saying, well, we ain't going to do that again. So you've got to get an NFL team that's willing to come and play in the Alamo Dome for a couple of years while a new stadium is being built. So I think that potential is there. But also you have to look at, is the Dome an NFL-capable stadium for a year? Yes, it is. Could it be a permanent home for an NFL team? No. The renovations that have been done, the millions that have been spent on the Dome through the years, when you think about the Final Fours that are coming, the upgrades, it's a fantastic stadium that has great artificial turf, Mr. Davis. But you look at it, and it's going to get new turf, according to our mayor, who was on our show on Monday night, as part of the normal upgrades. But I think it can be. I think fans want an NFL team here. Fans are tired of always being the city that gets dangled out. Well, if you don't come, we don't get our stadium here, we'll move to San Antonio. We've done this with the NFL before. Red McCombs has said on my show years ago that the Chargers could already be here if we had a mayor in place at the time that was focused on football and not MLS. I don't know if that's true or not, but if Red McCombs told me that, I'll probably go with that. In San Antonio is certainly capable of. The knocks on San Antonio, we're a huge city, we're a small TV market because we're a TV market. Austin is an hour away. They're their own TV market. Corpus Christi is 2 hours south. They have their own TV market. And then you've got the Valley area that also has its own TV market, where you take a city like Salt Lake that covers all of Utah and parts of Nevada. It's a huge TV market, but they don't have near the population count. So when you just look at TV market size, that's what hurts us. But if you don't understand how TV markets work, then you think that we're just this little small town, and we're really not.
No, and that's one of the knocks, of course, against Las Vegas. And when the state here decided to spend $750 million in hotel money to build the stadium was that fact that Las Vegas is also not a large TV market, is number 41. But of course, Las Vegas has 43 million people come through it each year, so it's a little bit of a unique situation outside of the media side of things. But you, like you said, you had Mayor Ron Nirenberg on your show this week. What did he say? What is the official word? Has he been contacted from the Raiders organization?
He has been, and he couched the talks right now as preliminary. He certainly knows that there is interest on the part of the Raiders of coming here. You know, they've got to do diligence on a number of cities. From the city standpoint, we are certainly open hosting the Raiders for a year. And I think what makes this scenario different than in years past when there's been flirtations from either Major League Baseball or an NFL franchise is we know what we're getting into. This is, in my mind, this is kind of like a Tinder date with an NFL team for a season. There's nothing long-term here, man. This is, we're going to have 8 regular season home games, maybe a playoff game or 2, and then they're going to leave. They're renting, they're not buying. So I think coming into it with that approach, I think that changes some things from a city standpoint, stuff that maybe the city would have given the Raiders as incentive to come here. That doesn't need to be on the table because it's not a permanent home. There would be rent, and there's all kinds of stuff that they can figure out if it gets to that point with concession and parking and, practice facilities and, the different things that come with moving an NFL organization to your town for a year. The question is, are they going to be able to sell tickets? I think they might have a hard time finding sponsorships, knowing it's a one-year deal. Some of the bigger companies here that support San Antonio teams or Texas teams, and you think about our banks and our grocery chains and stuff that are unique to our market, that might be tough. The national brands obviously are going to follow the Raiders. It's in my mind, it's selling tickets. Can you sell enough tickets to fill the Alamo Dome?
Yeah, and that's
San Antonio is a football-heavy town in a football-crazy state. But I wonder if, I look at the schedule for next year, if it's Raiders-Chiefs in the Dome, which is probably going to be one of their bigger games, and the Cowboys are playing at the same time, do I stay at home and watch the Cowboys, or do I go to the Dome and watch the Raiders play the Chiefs in person? And I think that's the question where the Raiders have to do a good job of saying, we're coming to your city, and we know we're only going to be here for a year, but we're going to have a positive impact on your community when we are here.
Yeah, and that for us in Las Vegas, they 2 years out. Now, I know this is going to be their permanent home, so I'll couch that a little bit because it's a little bit different. But I can tell you that the Raiders do go into communities, and they are very community-focused. 2 years in advance here, they have been doing 2 to 3 community events where they're donating to organizations, being involved with the schools. So my guess would be even if they're going to come there on a temporary basis, they would do that. Now, San Antonio has been the temporary home of an NFL team in the past, and that, of course, was after Hurricane Katrina. New Orleans Saints, with what happened at the Superdome in New Orleans, they played at the Alamo Dome. How were they received? I know it was a different situation. People were all hosting folks from New Orleans because they had to escape because of the devastation. But how was it then when the Saints played there, another NFC team, obviously as a big Cowboys town? How did the city respond then and fill the Alamo Dome?
It was open arms. It was incredible. And San Antonio embraced the Saints. And you think about, Drew Brees, everybody that was here, they were winning games. The games inside the dome were incredible. I think San Antonio put on a good show, proved that the Alamo Dome is certainly a capable NFL stadium. They could host it. If you've never been inside the Alamo Dome, the sight lines are perfect everywhere you go. I mean, this is a well-built football stadium. When we do broadcasting of, various games there, I mean, from a press level standpoint, I know that's selfish of me to say and nobody cares about, but it's the best press box you're going to be in as far as sight levels and where you are in proximity to the field and your angles. It's fantastic. You think about the Valero Alamo Bowl every year, generally ends up being one of the better bowl games of the year from a competitive standpoint, how it looks on television, how they are able to pull it off. Fans have a great time when they come because of the location, the walking ability from the dome into downtown for the restaurants and bars and whatnot on the Riverwalk. I mean, it creates a fantastic setting. And when the Saints were here, sure, we knew that they came here escaping a storm. Also keep in mind that Tom Benson, the late owner of the New Orleans Saints, is got a lot of San Antonio ties, lots of car dealerships here, some schools and stuff that are named after him. And there was a thought that he could end up moving the Saints to San Antonio. In fact, if the NFL didn't kick in a whole bunch of money to redo the Superdome there in Louisiana, they might already be here. So it was a twofold gesture on the part of San Antonio. One, you guys need a place to play. We've got a dome. Come. I mean, we're going to help you out. That's what Texans do. We're going to do that. But two, we got to put on a good show, because if the dome, the Superdome there in New Orleans wasn't fixable, then they were going to need a place to go, and could they come to San Antonio and make that a home? But it was incredible, and I think it would be incredible with the Raiders coming to play for a year too. Everybody, this is cowboy country. The Texans have been around for a while now, and they've made some small inroads, but Jerry Jones has said on my show before that 98% of San Antonians are Cowboy fans. 97% of people in Dallas are Cowboy fans. I mean, this is cowboy country, and I think, everybody says Jerry would never let it happen. I don't know that the Texans would let it happen, especially for the Raiders. They might have a bigger issue with the Raiders coming, because you talk about the TV market size. Well, the Raiders being an AFC team would mean the Texans wouldn't be on TV in San Antonio and probably Austin and Corpus, depending on how the NFL were to draw the map.
Yeah, that's what would be interesting about San Antonio is I think there would be a lot of caveats and changes to current policies on a temporary basis. One, of course, you just mentioned, which is TV. But also, I think that if you're going to be outside of California, I mean, you look at, again, we're Vegas-based, right? So I have to look at the odds. Oakland right now, 3-2 favorite to keep the Raiders for the year. San Diego, 2-1. Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, 7-2. And the Alamo Dome, 9-2. So if you look at the odds there, out of the top four, 3 of them are in California. Makes sense, right? The Raiders have been in Los Angeles. They have a lot of fans in San Diego. I grew up in San Diego. I used to go to Charger games as a kid, and I was outnumbered often by Raider fans. Oakland, and then Levi's, which is, of course, the Bay Area. So you understand that. But any other option outside of the California market is going to be very unusual. So, we've heard even things like ticket supplements. Like, for example, if you're in San Antonio and they're going to sell tickets to a Raiders game, that's going to be at a very high discount just to get people in there so that they can fill it up and allow the community to enjoy some NFL football without having to pay premium prices for a team that they're going to, of course, not have long term. So it'll be really interesting to see that. But having gone through this so many times with different franchises, Jason, what do you think? I mean, I'll give you my gut reaction from the Raiders side, but what do you think? You think that San Antonio and you think the mayor, Nuremberg, do you think they're going to put a hard enough case forward that the Raiders are going to have to really, really consider it.
I do. I think Ron Nirenberg has been a good mayor in the sense of he's not going to waste his time. So if he didn't think it could be possible, didn't think it would be possible, I don't think would put his staff and the city staff and spend resources to chase something that wasn't going to work. The question really, in my mind, is Mark Davis. Is Mark Davis wanting to really consider San Antonio? I know he has said it. I know that he's also said he doesn't like the turf there. I don't know if the man's ever been on the turf here. I know he prefers natural grass. I think most owners prefer natural grass. But in 2018, the technology with the artificial surfaces are fantastic. And by the way, have you seen the grass that they play on now?
Oh, yeah.
So, but if he's looking for an excuse, he's already going to have his built-in excuse. And so I think it's up to whether or not Davis truly wants to move here. I don't know when they were talking about a permanent basis. He was talking about a statue of his dad in front of the stadium in Texas. So really, what does he want? I look at, you can go through the odds, and obviously Vegas knows. Vegas always knows. I can't imagine them wanting to go to San Diego, or San Diego wanting them, or the NFL wanting them in San Diego, knowing that they're still trying to get Charger fans to realize their team is in Los Angeles. And then you got the two teams in L.A. that I don't know if they want a third team that's going to be that close. And, I don't know if the 49ers want a roommate. So you look at it and you go, okay, well, if he can't stay in California, where's his next best option? Could it be St. Louis? Could it be San Antonio? Could it be, UNLV? And quite frankly, you look at it, it really depends on what he wants. I mean, obviously UNLV doesn't have the stadium size, but if it's only for a year and they know that, then is he willing to put up with that as opposed to relocate and what it would cost to relocate, say, to San Antonio or San Diego or anywhere else for a year?
Well, and I agree with you. And we had Lee Hamilton, of course, longtime talk show host down in San Diego, who said that no one from the city has had any contact with the Raiders. He has real good sources there and with the county as well. So there's been absolutely no conversations with San Diego, which is why I've ruled it out. And for all the right reasons, too. For example, the Spanos family moved the Chargers saying it wasn't a viable market anymore because of the stadium, and now you want to put a team there for a year? It doesn't make any sense. It makes the NFL actually look bad, in my view. And so you're not going to do that to your owner because no matter who the owner is, the owners protect each other, as you know. But also, I think you look at the Alamo Dome from a perspective, one of the reasons UNLV is not real viable is the stadium, not only the size, as you mentioned, Jason, but also things like infrastructure. You don't have all the right camera angles, that you don't have camera spots where you could actually do what the NFL requires for instant replay. The Alamo Dome, you can. So to me, it makes the most sense for the Alamo Dome. If I was going to bet on it, I would bet the Alamo Dome second behind Oakland, because if they can somehow come to some resolution and, in essence, to be frank with you, pay the city off so that they drop their lawsuit. Although we had a lawyer down by you say that there's not really much merit to the lawsuit. But if they can do that, then I see them staying there. If they can't, then I like San Antonio. But it's going to be an interesting situation. It's such a great sports town down there, and I think even for a year, maybe Cowboy fans in San Antonio would come out just to see some football if the price was right. So we'll see that. But, Jason, we want to stay in touch with you and certainly find out more as things progress, and we appreciate you being here today.
I appreciate you taking the time, and I agree with what you just said. I think San Antonio would certainly show up to get 65,000 people on a Sunday to go watch NFL football, and kind of some of the things I've said on my show. You don't have to be a Raiders fan. Nobody's asking you to buy a T-shirt. But you got NFL football coming. Whether you want the Raiders, look at who they're playing. See the different talent that's going to be coming in, and I think it would show well for the city of San Antonio for a future possible permanent NFL team. But in the meantime, you got NFL football in your city, you're going to go watch it.
Absolutely. Jason Minnix, ESPN Radio, San Antonio, The Blitz with Jason and Rob. We're going to step aside just for a brief moment, and we'll be back here on The Silver and Black Today.
Help us talk the Silver and Black. Call us at 702-889-5978. Here's Matt Gutierrez and your host, Scott Gulbranson, on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM.
All right, we're about to take this first hour to bed here and put it to bed, I should say. And Matt, when we come back, we're going to talk about Monday's game in Oakland and how some people want to play up that there actually might be violence.
Isn't that just, man, the stigmas that follow this team around.
That's right.
Are amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We'll also talk about AT&T Park and the possibility of the Raiders maybe playing next season there. Will it happen? I don't know. I
More baseball dirt. Yay.
Yeah, I kind of hope not. Cal played there before when they were reconstructing their stadium.
Stadium's small, man.
It is small. It is fun to watch a football game there, though, from what I've heard. Vinny Bonsignore told us that earlier, but we'll talk about that. We're going to step aside. Sports update from CBS Sports Radio coming up next, and when we come back, we'll talk about Monday night's game in Oakland and if it will be the last and what fans' reaction will be to that. You're listening to the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Get a shot of adrenaline, sports adrenaline, Saturday morning from 8 to 10 on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbranson and Matt Gutierrez.
Welcome back. Our Christmas Eve show. Christmas Eve show. You're on Silver and Black today. He is Matt Gutierrez. I am Scott Gulbranson.
I'm a little disappointed, Scott.
What's that?
You haven't even mentioned my hat yet, man.
What's your hat? Oh, the Tim Brown hat. Yes.
Hold up.
But see, yes, the Hall of Fame hat. I love that.
Oh, man,
I love that.
I mean, Tim brings us back from the break sometimes. How have you missed the hat?
He does.
Up to this
Well,
point?
look at my shirt, though. For the people who are watching, I got to take the graphic off here, though, so the people can see my shirt.
Speaking of Notre Dame, did you see who we had in studio yesterday on Sports Adrenaline?
You had Rudy.
We had Rudy in
That was
here.
freaking phenomenal, man.
I tell you what, Scott.
See my shirt. My shirt's the undefeated shirt from this year, 12-0, baby.
We get to talk to a lot of cool sports figures doing what we do. And it's always fun, and a lot of these guys are nice. Some of them are kind of rigid, and you whatever. But go back to James Neal.
Yeah.
He's kind of a rigid, surly guy in the locker room. But we get to talk to a lot of cool people. Talking to Rudy, I had chills for the entire segment. It was
and you're not a Notre Dame fan.
Not at all. But that movie, that story, the way he tells it, the inspiration, man. That was one of the cool ones right there.
It is.
That was fun.
It's one of obviously being a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Got to be.
But it's interesting too, Matt, because I'm looking at this game tomorrow in Oakland. Okay, and everybody's wrapped up in this. Could be the last game in Oakland. Actually, with all due respect to the fans up there, I hope it is, because I think it's just time to get over it and get past it.
Agreed.
And so I hope that. Now, there is a narrative going out there that upsets me, because like I said, I'm not one of these guys. Look, I grew up a middle-class white kid, okay, good suburbs of San Diego. I didn't grow up in the inner city, so I don't know that struggle. But I can tell you, I just think there's some underlying themes here with this narrative. And the narrative is the NFL better beef up security in Oakland on Monday night because there could be violence.
Yeah, man, we hear this all the time with Raider Nation, and apparently they are the only fans in the NFL that drink beer. They're the only fans in the NFL that get rowdy. They're the only fans in the NFL that throw punches. We know that's not true. We've seen it from every fan base in the NFL, and I know I've been a Raiders fan my entire life. There is no bias in this. The worst stadium I've been to as far as fan reaction to the other team was Denver. The team coming into Oakland this week. Their fans in Denver were the worst I've been around. And granted, I've never been to Philly. Sorry, Philly fans, but you've got a rep. We all know it. But they were bad. And that was the game that Janikowski hit that 63-yarder at the end of the first half. The Raiders ended up winning that. It was an opening Monday night game. So they were probably a little salty. But, I mean, it was ugly, the fan reaction out there. So don't give me this, well, it's only the Raiders. And we know what it stems from. It's the look. It's the look of Raider Nation.
Well, and it's also, I would argue, and again, especially for folks who know me personally, this will surprise them a little bit, but I do believe there is a little bit of a racial tinge there. Mm-hmm. I believe that because Raider Nation, especially California, very diverse group, Hispanic, massive Hispanic fan base in Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, the Bay Area, everywhere. So I think that's part of it. But I also, hey, look, I went as a Charger fan as a kid to Raider games where I saw people getting in fights and all this stuff. So there is an element, there's no doubt about it, there is an element that is attracted to the Raiders, not because they are the Raiders and because of football. It's because they're black and silver and they're rebellious, and the violence that came along with early Raider football, like our man Phil Villapiano, those guys, the way they played, and how Al Davis said, hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, that kind of stuff. So I get that piece of it, and that's good that it's still there, because it's still a mental thing with other teams, even when the Raiders haven't won a game.
With the refs, too.
With
clearly.
the refs, yes, unfortunately. So I get that piece of it, but at the same time, this is a little different. It's like, this is, a different situation, and what bothers me, and I'm not perfect, I make all kinds of mistakes. There's lots of broadcasters out there way better than I am, but I do my homework. A lot of these journalists don't do their homework, and so they're immediately jumping to, well, the Raiders are a bunch of thugs, and so they're going to create problems. I'm reading from a story from 9 News in Denver, the NBC affiliate in Denver. Headline: Oakland Stadium setup could be Christmas Eve concern for Broncos. And they talk about the tunnel, how the tunnel, both teams come out together. Matt, let me ask you a question. Since 1961, has the tunnel at the Oakland Coliseum changed?
Nope.
It has not.
They've always come through the same tunnel on the same sideline. The visiting team has to cross the field to get to their sideline.
Right.
That's the way it's set up. It's a baseball field, guys. Let's not forget that. That's the dugout side. That's the clubhouse side. That's just how it is in that stadium. It's ridiculous to think that that's suddenly, in what could potentially be the last game in that stadium, is now going to be an issue. If it was ever a concern, they would have taken care of that decades ago. But
right.
And they're not the only team whose players come out of the same area. There are other stadiums around the league where that happens. But
Kansas City?
Yeah. It just
happens everywhere.
Man, they have that stigma. I'm sure I've told this story before. One of my best friends was a lifelong Chargers fan up until last year when
I've heard that before.
Banels bumped him out of there. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how much he's given up on football at this point. But I'm without question my biggest rival as far as friends go when it comes to sports. He's a San Diego State fan. He's a Padres fan. He's a Chargers fan.
Okay, that's
pretty
good.
much everything I hate, he's a fan of. But we have been to games together in both San Diego and in Oakland.
Right.
He got more heat in San Diego than he did in Oakland because there's such a heated rivalry between the Southern California fans down there that it was, and that's in his home stadium, that it just got ugly quickly down there.
Yes.
When you're up in Oakland, and I know people don't get this because a lot of visiting fans are afraid to go to Oakland, or they have been traditionally. Oakland, those are fans that have been around since 1960. Those are long-time football fans. Their dad was a Raider fan. Their grandfather was a Raider fan. They've been going to the Coliseum for 20, 30, 40, 50 years now. That's what people don't really understand about those fans up there. They love their team. They want to see their team win no matter what. I was at the game when Carr got his first win. They were 0-10. That was a playoff atmosphere. It was a Thursday night game against the Chiefs. Playoff atmosphere for an 0-10 team.
Wow.
You don't get that too many places in the NFL. That's what you're going to see tomorrow night. You're not going to see people rioting, and you might see a couple idiots out there. There's outliers. But
there's always people that are fighting and doing crazy things. I mean, we saw it. I see it from New England games. You go on YouTube, you can find fights from every NFL game every Sunday.
Yeah.
So to me, that's why it's being overplayed. I also think it's a way for Denver to make an excuse, frankly. But, this violence, and I have seen people on Twitter, Oakland fans, say, well, are you going to rip your seat out? Good luck with that. You know what kind of wrench you got to bring them? And by the way, the A's still play there, guys. It's not like it's not like Cleveland where they were wrecking down the stadium so people were taking crap on their way out. I just don't see it happening. I also, it was an interesting article in the few minutes we have left, Matt. Michael Rosenberg on Sports Illustrated writes for their Monday morning quarterback column, and he wrote a story, a column, which talked about, the headline was, "No one seems to care that the Raiders are leaving Oakland." And the main premise of the piece, and you should go read it if you haven't read it, is that all year long the media has been obsessed with John Gruden does this, and today we see it again because he fired a strength and conditioning coach.
That's it. Season's over.
And people are going nuts about it, which it just cracks me up. I think I feel bad for those guys in the Bay Area because I know they just want to move on. But he says, the story of the season has not been the team is leaving town. It has been Gruden. There have been Raider fans who are furious that the team is leaving and swear they will never root for the team again. I empathize with them, he says. The Twitter feed for the group called Forever Oakland has just 825 followers. I think my dog has more than that, actually. When the Browns left Cleveland, the only people in Northeast Ohio who were happy were therapists, right? But his whole point in this piece, Matt, is that you've read all these stories and that in essence, he says, quote, the Raiders are an ethos. They represent something besides a city. They are rebels, anti-establishment, the team you cheered for if you were a motorcycle gang. Okay, that plays into the false narrative. Or just like to imagine being in a motorcycle gang, okay? Not that they are the NFL team from Oakland, but that they are the Raiders, the Outlaws, the rowdiest bunch in the most violent sport. To me, this is the point why it doesn't matter where they play next year. And I know Las Vegas, we're going to welcome us as our home team. But people have to understand in Las Vegas, when the Raiders come here, yes, they will be the Las Vegas Raiders, but they, first and foremost, as you've always said, Matt, are the Raiders.
Right, absolutely. And that goes back to, then you know what? They were Oakland's Raiders for a long time. Yeah, there was that bad boy image, and people all over the country kind of gravitated towards that. But once Al Davis took them to Los Angeles, that's where Raider Nation really took on a life of its own. And I know a lot of diehard Oakland fans don't really want to admit that, but that's where it grew, and pop culture took over with this team, and it became the monster that it is today. That's why moving to Vegas is going to be an easy transition for them, because they've already done this once, and it made them bigger. It made them more of a brand. Now you bring them to Las Vegas, which is a hotbed for sports all of a sudden. Everybody wants to come here. You have free agents talking about it already. Other leagues looking to come here. The WNBA is here. The NHL is here. The NBA is on its way. MLB rumors flying left and right. And the Raiders are going to be here. This is a spot to be now. This is only going to help this brand grow.
It is, and I love this. There's a couple quotes in here that I love. He said, the Raiders are a rare sports team that can honestly say leaving a city is not a betrayal of the brand. It is an affirmation of it.
There you go.
That's pretty, I mean, I don't agree with everything he said in this piece. You should definitely read it, but that definitely was one. And he closes, fans were not there to mourn the team's departure, a game he went to early in the year. For the Raiders, it was always a commitment to excellence, not a commitment to Oakland.
There you go, man. They're going to thrive here. I'm telling you. They're going to thrive.
They are. And we're going to step aside for a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Andrew Mason from Broncos.com about tomorrow's game against the Broncos. You're listening to The Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
This portion of Silver and Black today is powered by the law office of Michael Troiano.
Hi, this is Steve Wisniewski, and you're listening to The Silver and Black today.
Indeed you are, on the Christmas Eve show. You know what, Matt, what is... I'm going to surprise you with this one real quick before we get to our guest. What is your favorite Christmas song? Do you have one? If you had to narrow it to one?
Off the top of my head, no. I'll have to think about it for a little while.
Okay. I have a lot. I'm a big... I don't care what
Maybe It's Cold Outside. There we go. I like that one.
I don't care what people think of me, but I actually listen. I will listen to Christmas music in July. Not like excessively, but just for a quick taste. My favorite is Dominic the Italian Christmas Donkey.
No idea what you're talking about.
If you haven't heard it, go check it out on Spotify. It's a funny song. Anyway, we are now going to go out on the attorney Michael Troiano newsmaker line, and we're going to bring in Andrew Mason from Broncos.com to talk a little bit about the Broncos heading out to Oakland for a big Monday Night Football matchup in the AFC West. No playoff indication, or it's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Spit it out for me.
Yep.
No playoff implications. Thank you. On the line, but nonetheless, it is an AFC West game. They're always a fun time. Andrew, welcome.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Great.
We're doing great, man. All right. So here's the question for you. Because, for those of us outside of Denver, we're hearing a lot of stuff in the national media, whether it's true or not, doesn't matter, but it's being talked about. And that is, does Vance Joseph have to win these final two games to keep his job? There's been a lot of hot seat conversations about Coach Joseph. But what are you thinking in Denver, and what's the feeling out there on the direction of the team?
Well, I would say probably have to win the last two, although I would also suggest that next Sunday's game against the Chargers may not have that much weight, simply because if the Chiefs do beat the Seahawks tonight, then the Chargers would come out to Denver next week with basically nothing to play for. They'd be locked into the number 5 seed, and at that point, that would turn that game into a glorified exhibition game. So I think this game, Monday night, is far more important in determining his status, and I think it's up in the air right now.
What do you expect to see from, Andrew, Matt Gutierrez here. Thanks again for joining us. What do you expect to see from the Broncos coming out in this game? This is obviously a huge one for the Raiders, not in the standings, but all the talk surrounding the potential last game in Oakland, in the Coliseum especially. And it's a Monday night game. We know how that crowd gets for these primetime games, and it's the Broncos coming to town. We know what that rivalry is about. Do you expect to see the Broncos get up for this game, or is it a case of, man, Vance Joseph kind of a lame duck coach at this point, not much to play for anymore? Where are you at?
I think they'll be up for it. For one thing, it is a rivalry. It is the Raiders and Monday Night Football. I think that will have them up for the game. I think also, even though playoffs and a winning record are off the table, I think getting back to 500 certainly seems to mean something. It certainly means something to the organization. If the Broncos can win these last 2 games, they will continue their streak, which is the longest North American pro sports, of avoiding back-to-back losing seasons. They haven't had back-to-back losing seasons since 71 and 72. Wow. So I think that is something that has a lot of weight organizationally. I think it's a point of pride for the players as well. I mean, if they do manage to finish 8-8, then you've kind of contained the damage from last year's season a little bit. You've gotten back on your feet. The other thing that was interesting, talking to guys in the locker room this week, is how they feel these couple of games, regardless of what happens with the coaching situation, these couple of games could determine, where the organization goes in the off season with a lot of players. And to a man, they all feel like they've made progress, and they want this core to stay together. And for most of the decisions regarding potential free agents, contracts, et cetera, to go with keeping guys. So I think this group wants to stay together, and they know that if they can win these last couple of games here, whether it's Vance Joseph or somebody else, that there's a good chance that a lot of this team could stay together under the logic that they went from 5-11 to 8-8, despite a lot of injuries.
Again, we're talking to Andrew Mason from Broncos.com. Now, Andrew, one of the big moves that John Elway and the organization made last offseason was to bring in Case Keenum at quarterback. He's almost got 4,000 yards this year, and I guess it depends who you talk to on whether or not it's working out as they anticipate. He's 15 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, so on the field, it's been up and down. What's the feeling overall, though, in Denver about Case Keenum, and they've committed to him, obviously, with the contract? Does the people in the organization that talk to you, they still feel good about where they're going with him at the helm?
Well, there's a feeling that he at least offered some stability, but at the same time that he may not be a long-term answer. He had a 2-year contract. It was very much, even though it was $18 million a year, compared to other quarterbacks, it was very much kind of a prove-it type of deal, type of situation. And we've already seen this year that John Elway has been out scouting quarterbacks. He was at an Oregon game watching Justin Herbert. He went to the Mizzou-Arkansas game at the end of the regular season, primarily to watch Drew Lock, who could work his way into the first-round conversation. So I think what they're looking at with Case Keenum right now is someone who I think they expect he's going to be the starter next year going in, but maybe he is just someone who is kind of keeping things stable, giving, and could allow a younger quarterback to develop. And, maybe if they like one of these quarterbacks in the 2019 draft, it's possible they could go in that direction pretty early, and then Case Keenum might be what Alex Smith was to Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs back in 2017, someone who's kind of helping him come along and allowing the young quarterback to develop without pressure, and then they pass the baton when the contract expires.
What's the feeling on John Elway's ability to find the right guy? Obviously, when he was there, he's one of the all-time greats, and bringing in Peyton Manning, a no-brainer if you ask me. Manning also one of the all-time greats, but outside of that, he's really struggled to find a guy to be the franchise, so to speak. Is there a sense that Elway's not able to get it done, or is there still a lot of confidence in him?
I think there may be some people in the public that feel that way. I don't think there's that sense internally at all that he can't get it done. I think part of that is, even though the quarterback position is something that has been hit or miss to say the least, this past draft in 2018 was an outstanding draft for the Broncos. They already have Bradley Chubb, who with a couple of sacks down the stretch here could break Javon Curse's rookie sack record. Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton are both starting at wide receiver. Cortland Sutton has made some big plays. I think Deshaun Hamilton out of Penn State probably develops into a slot receiver down the line. Isaac Yiadom is a cornerback who's probably going to play quite a bit on Monday. He's had some rookie moments, but he's got that cornerback short memory. He's able to forget it, and he also plays press man and prefers that, which is what the Broncos want from their corners. And then on top of that, you have Philip Lindsay, who was undrafted, and he's going to the Pro Bowl. So I think after this past year, with that rookie class, there's a feeling that, okay, they figured some things out. They kind of changed the template on what kind of players they were looking for. They emphasized extensive college experience. All the guys that they drafted were either 4 or 5 year guys or college graduates, or in most cases both. Their entire draft class, save for one player, was made of team captains on the college level. So they basically shifted the type of player and person that they were looking for, and they got results. And I think they feel like they're onto something with the direction they went in. And so I think they want to continue looking for those types of players in 2019, and that again may include a quarterback who fits that template of being a team captain, staying at his school at least 4 years, being very intelligent and passing all the character tests.
Now, you mentioned Bradley Chubb. I'm pretty confident him and Von Miller are sitting back there licking their chops, getting ready to face this Oakland offensive line.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be tough for that line. The Raiders' offensive line, obviously, Andrew, struggled mightily during this season, having rookies and so on. Now, with the Broncos coming into this game, a lot of emotion. We got about a minute left with you, Andrew. A lot of emotion for the Raiders, clearly, with it might being their last game in Oakland. And this rivalry has been around for a long time, and it's been a heated one, including playoff games. What do you think is going to happen? You think the Broncos, because of what needs to happen on their end, do you think they're going to come out on top, or you think it might be a little bit of a trap for them because of that emotional edge?
I think they'll come out on top in the end. I mean, I think it's going to be a struggle, but I think they also are going into this game expecting it to be a bit of a struggle at times. Since Emmanuel Sanders was hurt, points have been hard to come by. They've been in the teens in back-to-back games. They know they're probably going to see plenty of 8-in-the-box looks because right now the best threat the Broncos have is that running game, handing the ball to Philip Lindsay in particular. So they're going to have to adapt, and they're basically they're probably going to struggle for some yards. But I think you mentioned Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. If the Broncos win this game, they're going to win it because Miller and Chubb own the Raiders' tackles and dominate in the pass rush, and that's why. And because of that, I just basically just mentioning Broncos' offensive struggles and their defensive ability and their pass rush ability. This feels like a game that's decided by one play or two plays. It ends up in that 17-13, 16-14 type of range.
That's
it
right.
Can go either way.
I agree, Andrew. Andrew Mason from Broncos.com. Thanks again, buddy. We'll talk to you next time. All right.
All right, take care. Merry Christmas.
Same to you guys. All right, Merry Christmas. So you're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
All right, welcome back to Silver and Black today. Want to thank our guest today. Of course, you just heard in the previous segment, Andrew Mason from Broncos.com giving us a background on there. And he says, Matt, Vance Joseph got to win Monday night.
Yeah, you're coming off of a home loss that I don't know if anybody remembers this or realizes this, Raider fans anyways, but the Broncos lost last week by a point at home to the Browns. I know the Browns are 6-7-1 this year, I believe.
Yep, they're approaching.
They have a tie 500. In there. But I mean, it's the Browns. They have a rookie quarterback back there, and you were at home, and even the Raiders beat the Browns this year. So that's a big one as far as going against your claim to stay in Denver as the head coach.
Yes. So that'll be interesting, and clearly they have a lot to play for. Like you said, getting to 500 as a team that missed the playoffs is a big deal. Also, Jason Minnix, our long conversation with him from San Antonio, certainly a very compelling case around San Antonio if the Raiders don't stay in the Bay Area. So that was a good one, too. So thank you to all of them for joining us here. And, of course, Vinny Bonsignore joined us in the first hour as well. Now, Matt, when we talk about some of this, we talk about the Bronco game. To me, there's a couple key things I think that the Raiders need to do because the Broncos defense, despite the year they're having, the Broncos defense is still pretty good. When you got Von Miller on the other side of the ball, it's always going to be a tough day for you. You're going to have to do that. So I think there's a duality here. The Raiders have to run the ball well on offense to open up that passing game, which means the offensive line's got to do something. And secondarily, they have to stop the Broncos from running. So from a defense, I think the running game on both sides is going to play a factor in who's able to win this game, which I think is going to go down to the wire.
I think the running game on the Raiders side is the biggest factor for one reason. You have to keep Chubb and Miller on their heels just a little bit, just a half a step. If those guys know that every single down they can just completely destroy Parker and Miller, the Raiders are done. They're going to be in big trouble. Now, the offensive line will be better this week than it was last week. Reason being, they've had an entire week to practice and gel together. It is I talked about this yesterday. It's difficult in the middle of a game to have to shuffle your line around and keep up that same kind of communication and where your assignments are. And that in-game flux is a really tough thing to have to deal with. To be able to gel throughout the course of the week, even though you don't have your 5 starters out there, right. You've got guys who have gotten practice reps in. They know what their assignments are going to be. They know what their audibles are going to be. They've had time to work with Carr. They understand where he's going to be. That makes a huge difference. If they can at least stay healthy throughout 60 minutes of football against the Broncos, you're going to see a better performance from them. Now, Chubb and Miller are great. They're going to get by guys. They can get past the best offensive linemen in the NFL. We know what these guys are capable of. That's why you need to be able to run the ball. You have to keep them back just a little bit so they don't pin their ears back and destroy Carr all day long.
Well, the other thing, Matt, too, that I think if you remember, if you go back to earlier in the season, when the Raiders blew a game in Denver, because there's no other way to put it other than they blew the game late, okay?
Just give the ball to Lynch, man. That's all they had to do.
That's all they had to do. Ask Pete Carroll about that. Yeah. So they had to do that. Now, the other thing was Carr was not great. I think Carr has improved a lot. Last week didn't have a great week because he wasn't given. I mean, time is one thing. We've talked about that. Earlier in the season, he had time he didn't take advantage of. This time, he was on his back most of the day, and it was hard to get anything going. And he didn't have a great game against Denver. But I will say that I thought the Denver game could be attributed and blamed on Coach Gruden as much as anybody else. I thought it was poorly coached. I thought the calls down, to your point about not using Lynch, the calls down the stretch in the fourth quarter when they lost the game, especially at the end, were his issue.
It felt like he didn't know how to coach with a lead at that point.
Correct.
And that was largely the problem early in the season. They had second half leads against Miami, against Denver, was a tie game against the Rams, I think, at the beginning of the year. They struggled to finish out games, close out teams. Denver's given up 260 pass yards a game. This isn't the no-fly zone that it was in the past.
That's right.
You can throw against this team if you have even a little bit of time. And I do expect this line to play better, and I do expect Carr to have a better game. He's got a hold of this offense now. He hasn't mastered it yet, but he understands this offense. He understands where guys are going to be. He understands how to attack holes in that defense with the routes that his guys are going to be running. Jared Cook has been great. Jordy Nelson has been good the last couple of weeks. He's finally starting to get the ball thrown his way. I think little by little, Carr is beginning to grasp what the concept of this offense is.
Absolutely.
A team that gives up 260 a game as far as yards through the air goes is I think, a good spot for him to be able to have another big performance. Don't be surprised if he's got a couple of touchdowns today and a 300-yard game.
Derek Carr just about 303 yards short of 4,000 for the season. He needs one more for 20 touchdowns against 8 interceptions, a passer rating of 96.4.
Having a really good statistical season.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't say much as far as wins, losses go, but doesn't have much around him this year, let's be honest, and the defense has been terrible. But Carr is playing well, and he's getting better as the season progresses, which is what you want to see.
Right, and took a step back, obviously, I think, because of offensive line play against the Bengals. But the Steelers game, Chiefs game, all above 122 passer rating, so doing well. Now, we've asked people to share with us Oakland Coliseum memories, and we've had nobody call in, so I'm assuming nobody cares about the Oakland Coliseum and they don't want to share.
It could be.
702-889-5978. If you call in and share your memory with us, we're going to give you, if you're watching us on our video feed, and you guys have asked a lot about it actually on Twitter, you'll see our Silver and Black Today Sin City Raiders flag banner behind me, which is in our studio. If you call in, I'm going to give 2 of those away today because I'm feeling like Santa. 2 away. Matt's pointing. He's doing the Vanna White thing. But if you call in, 702-889-5978, we'll take your call, and you'll get a free Silver and Black Today Sin City Raiders banner for just calling in. I mean, we're feeling the Christmas spirit.
It is. 'Tis the season, as they say, right? 'Tis the season.
'Tis the season for football, right?
Yeah. I'm just going back to it. I'm curious. So, do people care? Do they? There is nostalgia that comes along with even the dumpiest of stadiums. People were sad to see the Vet go in Philly, and that place was a dump.
Yes.
So, I mean,
it's memories, right?
Yeah. Are you going to miss it? Do you care? Or is it just get out of here? We're done with it.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, you share memories. You for those people up in the Bay Area who went there, even for folks who are outside of the Bay Area who are Oakland Raiders fans who went to a game there, I've seen them share some memories and whatnot. But overall, I think this is just another example of how the Raiders are much bigger than the one market, and why actually it's such a great argument and point for Las Vegas, Matt, as you said earlier, which is Vegas is a destination spot people come to anyway. So if you're a Raiders fan, not that it's hard to get to Oakland, but coming to Las Vegas with everything that goes along with coming to Las Vegas, great dining, great entertainment, and of course the gaming, and now a state-of-the-art football stadium with a team here that's your team. I mean, it just gives you all the more reason to come out here, and I think that's why, as you said, it's going to work out perfectly.
Oh, it's going to be great. I mean, we love Vegas. We know what Vegas is. This place is amazing. If you've never been here, and if you've only been here and been on the Strip, you don't really get a sense of what it is. But this community is awesome. It's a giant suburb outside of Las Vegas Boulevard. I mean, that's essentially what you have in Las Vegas. You're in a huge bowl, this big valley, and it's just one big suburb. People love to come here. People travel to San Diego. Raider fans traveled to San Diego when San Diego was a road destination, and they filled that stadium up with silver and black. What makes you think that those same fans aren't going to travel to Vegas?
Oh, they are.
When they're the home team. It's a home game
exactly
in that amazing stadium
Correct.
That we drive by every day and just keeps getting bigger and taller and more amazing.
Yes, and our viewer Roland Raider on YouTube says he'll miss the tailgate the most. And I don't doubt that. The tailgate culture at Oakland is really cool.
It is.
But it's very small. I mean, if you're talking about a 65,000 seat stadium and you have about 5,000 people tailgating, no offense to the tailgaters, because I did it as a kid too in San Diego. Most people don't care. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just saying most people don't care. And while you will miss it, I totally get you and I feel you. I think you'll find that in Las Vegas with what we're going to have here, you're gonna miss it less because it's going to be a really good time. The other thing I want to mention too was I was down, Matt, earlier this week at the stadium site. Mark Davis did a lunch for the stadium workers for the holidays. Gave away TVs, gift certificate. I mean, they just did the whole.
Promised them a steak dinner, man.
Promised them a steak dinner when it's done. So very cool stuff. The Raiders in the community, Raider Foundation, want to thank them for inviting me down there. We'll talk a little bit about that too. When we come back, we're going to do Matt's Audible. We'll see what he's got for us. We don't know because he's going to call that play at the line, folks. But you're listening to the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio. Don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, go subscribe iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, so you get versions of this show and our podcast every week. We'll be back right after this on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The law. This is Mark Bedane, president of the Raiders. You're listening to Silver and Black Today.
All right, Mark Bedane bringing us in. Got to see him down at the stadium event in his work boots. He's such a finely dressed guy. Seeing him in work boots and a T-shirt was interesting. All right, we're going to go out now on our phone line, and we have a Raiders season ticket holder who's going to talk about his Coliseum memories. This is Randy in the home of Bugs Bunny, Burbank, California. Randy, how you doing today? You're on the Silver and Black today.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well, buddy.
I just wanted to say, I'm over there behind the visitor bench, and I've never seen any trouble. I mean, occasionally you'll see them remove somebody, but it's so rare, and everybody always seems to get along with the other team. Like my girlfriend's a Bronco fan, and we usually go to the game every year, and she ends up betting beers with the people around us. And it's just a friendly atmosphere over there.
So I'm assuming that she's like the best woman on earth because you're overlooking the fact that she's a Broncos fan.
Sometimes you got to give a little.
I love it. Now, Randy, are you going to be a season ticket holder here in Las Vegas? Have you decided yet?
I'm already in, yes. I was in early. Back in March, man. I jumped in. So
good.
Being a season ticket holder in Oakland, do you have a specific game that stands out to you in that Coliseum?
Sure, the Thursday night against the Chiefs, the game that wouldn't end.
Yeah.
That was right down by our seats, and that was just the craziest finish ever. Kept being one more play till they won.
That was a good one. Awesome, man. Yeah. Thanks, Randy. We appreciate you calling.
Yeah, we're going to send you out your flag, man. I appreciate it. Have fun at the game tomorrow night, and we'll see you when you get here to Vegas.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Randy in Burbank, thanks for calling in, my man. And he is that was cool. He's dating a Broncos fan. So good for him.
Couldn't do it. My wife's a Raiders fan, so we're good.
Oh, that's funny. But no, I appreciate Randy calling in. We have a lot of listeners in California and around the country, so it's always good to hear from them as well. So we're going to get Randy out his flag, his silver and black today, Sin City Raiders flag.
I thought he was going to go to the Thursday night game when they were 0-10. That one's on my list. I talk about it a lot because that was Carr's first win, and the atmosphere in that game for being the worst team in the NFL at the time. They hadn't won in over a calendar year, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And they get the last-minute touchdown and finally win the game. And just I was fortunate enough to be on the field for that game. And the just elation from the players and that monkey off your back kind of thing, that was great. My very first game in Oakland, believe it or not, wasn't until 1997. The first time I finally got a chance to go to Oakland for a game. And it was just me and my dad. He took me for my birthday. It was a late November game. And great thing about that was they were playing the Dolphins. I was a big Dan Marino fan as a kid. Not a Dolphins fan at all. I just really liked Dan Marino. I thought he was great. Got to see Marino play. The Raiders lost that game, but I got to see my team play. I saw Tim Brown catch a touchdown, and I got to see Marino play. So that was another good one.
Well, and so for you, though, Matt, like when you think about the Coliseum and your experience there, besides the games, was there a moment? Was it being in the parking lot and seeing the whole scene? What was it about going to the Coliseum for you that was really special?
Well, the cool thing about it was for the first time we were there, and my dad and I just kind of wandered around the parking lot talking to fans in Raider Nation and checking out the tailgates, and they invited us in. Hey, come have some food. Come have a drink. They were very gracious. Just allowed us to be part of their tailgate. My dad got hit by a seagull. If you know what I mean. A memory I will never. I've told my son about it when he was a kid. He used to talk about a bird pooped on Grandpa's head. He thought it was the funniest thing ever.
He got Daryl LaMonica.
He got hit, man. It was good stuff. It was funny though. But I mean, those are the things I remember from that first game. Is the fact that I got to see Marino. I saw Tim Brown catch a touchdown. And we got to go to tailgates when we didn't even drive up there.
All right. Well, we're going to go out to voted one of the best cities to live in the country. That, of course, is Henderson, Nevada. And our listener, Wally. Wally, you've won a flag, but tell us about your Oakland Coliseum / Raiders memory here on maybe the last weekend the Raiders will play in Oakland.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
Great, man.
Hey, I went to my first game in 1970. We lived in Pleasant Hill, California. And I got to take my parents had season tickets. I used to take my mom's seat for one game a year for my birthday.
Oh, wow.
What game did you choose? Who was that first game?
That was awesome. And I still remember my stepdad had this fake sandwich was made out of like foam, and there was like a flask in the middle of it. So he'd smuggle in booze into there.
That's a very Raider of him right there. I like that.
Well, not only that, but he was teaching you right as a young kid, right? He's like, hey, when you get to be of age, this is how you a fake sandwich.
Brilliant.
That is killer.
I had a buddy who was a season ticket holder in L.A. He was an older guy, and he had a cane. Not because he needed one, because the middle was hollowed out, and he would hide those little tube flasks in there. Order a Coke, he was good to go.
There was a guy they did a highlight of him in Green Bay who had a fake leg. And he finally, after like 15 years of smuggling alcohol in his fake leg, they finally caught him. But Wally, are you in on season tickets here yet, or what's your deal with that?
No, actually, I'm kind of bummed. I like going to the Bay Area because we spend all day Saturday in San Francisco, and then we go to the game and fly home. So, and this place is going to be off the hook prices wise.
That's very true. That's the downside. You know, with Oakland being a dilapidated stadium and all that kind of stuff, it was cheaper to go, and now it's going to be tough. Absolutely, the ticket prices, as we've seen with the Golden Knights here, it's hard to get a ticket because it's so expensive. But Wally, we're going to get that flag out to you, man. Appreciate you listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, thanks, brother.
All right, Wally and Henderson.
A couple more before we go, Scott.
Yes, please do.
I mentioned it earlier, the Brett Favre game after his dad died. That was we had already planned on going to the game. It was my wife and my brother, and we went up there, and we got the news while we were headed up, and the question was Brett Favre going to play? He ended up throwing for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. He couldn't miss, and nobody in Oakland cared. They were all on their feet cheering for Brett Favre because of the emotion surrounding that event. It was one of the coolest things I've seen in that stadium. I was at the game against the Buccaneers in 2004 when Tim Brown was a Buck, the one season he played there, caught his 100th receiving touchdown in Oakland that game. It was also Rich Gannon's last game. He broke his neck that game.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lots of memories, and, there's always a little tinge of sadness when you say goodbye to the old, and despite the fact that you're going to have all this excitement around the new. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with folks, Matt. But I think that, again, this game, I'm gonna go on a limb here. I'm going to say 27-24 Raiders win on a field goal at the end of the game.
I think the Raiders make up for what happened in the first game against Denver, and Derek Carr is the catalyst. We get that touchdown-winning drive late, 28-27 Raiders.
I like that. That's a good prediction. Matt, as always, man, thanks for coming in.
Of course, man.
Of course.
Blast.
It is a blast. All right, Raider Nation, we appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the show in all the channels you do, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever. Also, YouTube, subscribe so you can watch us.
Merry Christmas, Raider Nation.
Merry Christmas to everyone. May everybody have a great holiday season. Enjoy your New Year's. We'll be back here next week to talk Raider football. You're listening to, as always, the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio. We'll talk to you next week.